Hi, this is my video review of Shaintar Legends Unleashed. This PDF is a sequel to Shaintar Legends Arise. It takes your characters to a whole new level of power. Your characters felt pretty powerful in the last book, but this book takes the game to a whole different level because the characters are no longer just adventurers. They are now generals and maybe kings or rulers. So this campaign setting is more of about clashing armies, about carrying out stealthy operations into other nations and other regions. It feels a lot like Lord of the Rings during those huge battles, and the characters are the generals and the heroes and the kings participating in those battles. And the cool thing about this book is that it gives you a lot of advice on how to run the game. Sean Patrick Fannon gives you a lot of tips and explains the reasons he had for doing this or that, implementing this rule and this thematic change. And that's pretty useful. It really teaches you how to run a proper campaign. And the PDF is excellent. It has a virtual table of contents and hyperlinks. You can easily navigate through the entire book, and it has some pretty cool illustrations as well. And it's very good. It has a good structure and a good layout, so you really understand how to run things in a very smooth way. Well, it gives you a lot of plot-related details, of course, because Shaintar is all about the plot, about all those mysteries and who is causing this conflict, what's the secret behind the builders or the enigmatic merchants. You get a lot of advances or developments related to the campaign world, because this book advances the timeline a few years ahead. And I like it when it just moves the timeline a bit, because some games move the timeline maybe 10 or 20 years or more, and they don't give you a good explanation of why they did that. But here in Shaintar, the timeline advances and the rules integrate in a very smooth way with it. Well, you get a lot of explanations about how your characters are now leaders and commanders and diplomats, and so you have to get into that mindset that every action that your character will take will affect the world greatly. And if you take into account that at Shaintar.com you can participate in a living campaign, you can feel even more how your actions and the adventures and the campaigns are affecting the entire world. And of course you get information about the paragons of the races, because you're going to get a lot of powerful edges to represent how your characters and the races in general have attained different powers, because your characters are no longer just foot soldiers, they are now heroes, champions. Let me tell you a bit about these new edges. For example, the Avacar get eagle eyes, and this reduces the range penalties a lot. They are effectively halved. So with your Avacar character, you can just navigate around the battlefield and fire arrows and maybe arc fire technology at your enemies, and your penalties are going to be very minor or non-existent. The Brinky get a cool edge here as well. It's called Fireheart, while Berserk, a Brinky with this edge, has the Fearless Monsters ability. As well, he enjoys the effects of the strong-willed edge at all times, so you can really cut loose and just go wild, massacring your enemies. And the Ogre gets some pretty cool edges as well. He gets the Shattering Blow. With this edge, when this hero strikes inanimate objects, he gains the bonus damage for a race and may ace his damage roll. In addition, he gains AP 2, Armor Penetration 2, with Corin attacks. So your Ogre hero is going to be able to demolish houses and destroy battlements and shields. That's pretty awesome, especially in this game where, as I told you, it's going to have a lot to do with massive battles and attacking fortifications. There are a lot of edges. Let me give you a few more. Some human edges. Blood of Heroes. A hero with this edge may, on any round they receive a face card, Jack or higher, for initiative, spend a Benny to gain the benefits of a Joker. So this is a surprise move on the part of the hero. Maybe the situation requires like a turnabout or like hidden ace and he can activate the blood of heroes, so he gets all the benefits of a Joker. That's pretty useful in dire straits when the group seems like everything is going downhill. You get more leadership edges, of course, and social edges, because this, as I told you, this campaign is all about political maneuvers, about leading your forces into the battlefield. So it's important that you understand how your character relates to entire nations. You get more information about potions and concussions and additional weapons and armor. They look pretty much like augmented versions of the same, but they still feel cool. You get full ring mail, partial brigandine, full brigandine, and so you still have options of how to protect your character. But the part I like the most are the weapon section, because you have the Arcfire blade. And now let me tell you about Arcfire technology. Arcfire technology gives you a lot of that sci-fi or steampunk feel to Shaintar, but it's not exactly that, because you really don't have that feeling of everything is steam or everything is just science. Arcfire feels like a technology from someplace else, not just alien technology. It feels like otherworldly or other planar technology. So your character can have all sorts of casters and arc firearms. So you have all those options, not just to engage in melee, but attacking from a distance, and with the very devastating effects. For example, the Arcfire Handcaster, it deals 2d8 of damage, and it has armor penetration of 2. So you can take a character that's not very used to direct confrontation and can still make a powerful contribution to the battle. So if you have your diplomat, or maybe your scholar, or your scientist, you can equip him with a lot of Arcfire weaponry, and he's going to be very useful. You also get magic powers, and this is where the game really goes over the top, because you have high magic, but you also get war magic, and the difference is that war magic applies to situations of mass battle, of mass combat, and war magic is not going to be very thematic in some campaigns, because it's very overpowered. So you have to consult with your game master if you can use this war magic, because sometimes it just feels like too much for a specific adventure. So the basic advice for this is that when you're carrying out individual adventures, you should use just high magic as usual, which is very powerful, because you have greater curse, and you have rending, and for example, this grotesque power uses raw force to squeeze, pull, and tear internal organs, bones, and other vitals. So you can see how your character is going to devastate a specific battle, just crushing enemies like that. But when it comes to war magic, it reaches a higher level of power. So let me tell you a specific one. Let me see. Infernal Abandon. With this ability, you can empower your forces to move with great speed and recklessness through any obstacle. Under the influence of this ritual, allied forces ignore up to 2 penalties from terrain modifiers, or ignore up to 2 protection bonuses from fortifications. So war magic is about giving bonuses and traits and abilities for your forces to have an advantage over the other army. And let me tell you about rituals. That's important too, because now they introduce powerful rituals which take time, and depending on the time of day that you cast them and the place of power where you carry out this ritual, you get even more powerful effects. So that's interesting too. Maybe you can have an entire campaign searching for these places of power and taking control over them, taking them from other nations, so you can carry out devastating rituals. Here's another war magic ritual: Crushing Despair. Tapping into the deep nether, necromancers can bring forth darkness and gloom to smother the very will to fight all of their enemies. Every round this ritual is in effect, the opposing force suffers -2 to all morality checks. It's all related to Battlefield, but as you can see, it affects so many creatures at the same time, and they are not really suited for more individual or specific adventures. And you get an entire chapter telling you how to run the game properly. You get rules about when to cheat, about because as you all know, game masters cheat with a lot of information, and you get information on when to raise the stakes and how you have to handle political intrigue and changes in regions and nations. You also get a lot of information about factions, faction play, the conflict between good versus evil, and different about the merchant versus Shanae and Targon. And this is all very spoiler heavy, so I don't really want to get too much into it. But as your game master reveals what's happening in the world, in the campaign world, your players are the players are going to get very excited, because it's obvious that a lot of planning went into this world, into the intrigues and the plots. And you of course you get a lot of challenges, challenge arcs. They serve mostly to construct campaigns, but integrating those campaigns directly with the plot line. Shaintar doesn't just it doesn't give you a world for your characters to just run around and find adventure sites. It really gives you that sense of, I don't know, of dread, that if you carry out something in a wrongful way, or if you attack some place that you shouldn't have, you're going to provoke war, and you're going to change the entire political structure of the game and the diplomatic relationships. So all of those challenge arcs are related to how the characters can affect the world of Shaintar. You also get a lot of templates and denizens and monsters for your characters to fight against, or maybe become their allies. Well, this PDF has a lot of information. It feels almost as overwhelming as the over-the-top powers here. Let me tell you what I generally think about this. I think this is a great book because it doesn't just gives you a few extra rules. It gives you like the entire sequel to the world, and your characters are going to feel almost like demigods. As I told you, they don't feel like just adventurers. They have so much power and so many abilities to survive against so many odds, but at the same time they feel threatened by all those conflicts, and there are still a lot of mysteries. I really like the part about the merchant, especially because those enigmatic power players really move the game forward, and they give you a lot of excuses on to create adventures, and how to create a different plotline in a same campaign. You create a campaign, and you create different paths for your characters to follow, and some of them may lead you to greater glory, but some others may cause the destruction of entire nations. And Shaintar is all about that, about making your characters feel like power players, like not just higher hands. They feel like the minds, the puppet masters behind the scene, but at the same time they are very heroic and powerful, leading their armies on the front line. I really can't find a negative thing about this book. Maybe if you're not into high fantasy, you're not going to like it. But that's, if you heard about Shaintar, you're probably interested in that sort of play, because Shaintar is not about realistic or grim or bleak in the sense that your hero may die at any moment. Shaintar is about heroes facing off against 100 enemies and surviving and leading nations and just inspiring everyone to fight against a greater threat. Well, thank you for watching my review. If you have any comments or questions, please let me know. I highly recommend that you get Shaintar, because as I told you, it doesn't just move the game forward, it gives you it solves a lot of the questions that you can see in the previous book, and it gives you some more questions about what's going to happen next, and that's very important for the continuation of a campaign. See you later.